Hi, today I'm going to walk you through the water quality lab provided by the Kansas Corn STEM. My name is Brent Connor. I'm a lead teacher for the Kansas Corn STEM program. Today I'm going to walk you through the water quality lab provided by the Kansas Corn STEM program. The purpose of this activity is to get the kids aware of the quality of water and how important that is not only to them as far as drinking and commercial uses, but as far as farming and what farmers need inside that water and what they try to prevent nutrients leaving their farm through water runoff. The materials that you need will be some soil test kit. This is a rapid test. We can use that for water as well. A Sonker TDS, electric conductivity and temperature meter, and a sample of water. And you can get that sample from anywhere that you need it. The importance of water. We got to maintain good water quality. It's something farmers that are striving for to help maintain the healthy ecosystem and to preserve the water that we drink. Farmers practice proper agricultural management to meet domestic water quality standards. In Kansas, 29% of our corn acres are irrigated, so the quality of the water that they're putting back onto that crop is very vital to them. In this lab, the students will test the water quality. You can do one source. You can have each table group do a different source. That's up to you as far as whatever your lab entails. This lab is actually suited best. The soil erosion lab is right after that one, so you can actually take that collected water from the runoff that you had on there, and you can actually test that as far as whether any nutrients were lost in that soil erosion lab as well. So farmers, that's kind of what the lab's for, but they're not the only ones that this infect. Golf courses, lawn care professionals, and parks are also concerned about the water quality that they're using and any runoff of pesticides or fertilizers into a local watering hole. So this lab is designed to get students thinking about how different segments of the communities can work together to improve that quality of water. Let's see, pesticides are one of the biggest problems in water runoff and to those sources. So we want to make sure that those pesticides stay on the crops and on our lawns, and also any nutrient loss. Farmers are wanting that as many nutrients to stay on their crops as possible. So testing their water, their ponds, their irrigation ponds, very important because they want to make sure they're not losing any of those nutrients into that water as they go. So for this lab, we'll be testing water from different locations. For this video, I just chose a local water sample, so we can just go through the process of how they perform that. So the first one we're looking for is electrical conductivity. This will show the presence of any salts that are in the water. The higher the salt content, the higher the conductivity reading. An elevated test is a sign that there's going to be some damage that could possibly due to the vegetation within the water and any wildlife in there. Total dissolved solids also measures everything that's in the water. So the higher that reading, it just means that there's stuff in there, and so we know that water has been contaminated by something, and we can go in and figure out what that substance is. So we're going to focus on 4 different nutrients. First one is potassium. This one is important for the strength of the plant, helps promote protein synthesis inside the plant. High levels of potassium in the water may indicate contamination from fertilizer runoff. So again, as we're checking these, if we're finding a lot of potassium in our water, that just means that there's not enough potassium in on our crop or in our yard because we've lost a lot of that out of there. Phosphorus is our second one. Again, plays a role in plant genetics and seed development, so helps the crops grow and stay healthy. Again, fertilizer runoff is one of the biggest causes of phosphorus showing up in our water supply. Nitrogen, this is the leaf production and color, so very important for the growth of the plant. Again, fertilizer runoff is the main source of why that would be in there. Nitrogen is very harmful to the animals as well, so if we do have a lot of fertilizer in our, or a lot of nitrogen in our water system, that could also affect the wildlife in there. And the last one would be pH. Obviously measures the acidity of our water. We want to try to keep pretty much neutral so that we have optimal growth for the area surrounding that water. And if it's an irrigation use, we got to make sure that pH is correct so that we're not damaging the crops as that water gets put back on there as well. So I always open that up, kind of give them a background of why water was important, and then we open up questions to them before the lab just to kind of see where they're at. So why the quality of water is important, what do we do to preserve good water quality, how about in the community, what practices are used to preserve water quality within the system. We might go over our local ordinance as far as our city water, the process of collecting that, treating that, and getting that into drinking water. So they know the process of that. And then for our purposes, we always talk about the farming aspect of that as well. Why would a farmer want to improve their management practices to help preserve the water? So those are our key goals for that. The lab procedures are pretty simple. Once you have your water collected, and you can do that, like you said, if you have various water supplies, you can split them into lab groups and have each group test a different water supply, and then you can kind of compare their findings, have them share their findings of those. And then all you'll need is your vials here of your different tests, and we'll kind of get started from that. So the first one we're going to do is our TDS meter. So on that, you just open the cap there. You have your probes down in here that are going to register. You turn that on, and all we do is we just kind of put that down in our sample, and we'll just give that about 30 seconds or so to help get that registered. Now, depending on which meter you have, sometimes it'll blink when it's done. Some of them you just kind of watch. Once the numbers slow down and start changing a little bit, then you're done. But usually, about 15 to 20 seconds is pretty sufficient to get a good reading. Once you have that number, you'll hold or push the hold button. And so when you take that out of your sample, that number is going to be shared for you. So the first one that we're going to do is our TDS, or the total dissolved solids. That's going to give you a number. And like I said, all that's telling you is that you have materials in there. The other thing about the Sonkers is the meters, they're color coded. I don't know if they can see that on the video, but this one is red. That light will turn red a little bit, and so that means that we got a high level. And so you can kind of, depending on your lab groups, your level of students, you can then go in and talk about that level. But for this lab, just knowing that it was a high level is sufficient. And then we have our mode button here. As you push the mode button, it'll automatically go to then the electrical conductivity part of that. So again, they'll record that number down. You can see that one's red also, because usually if your total dissolved solids are red, so are your electrical conductivity, and that just means you got salts and other materials in there. And then if you hit that again, that'll give you your temperature. Again, that one's a red because we, not an optimal source, and this one's kind of been sitting around for a few hours, so we're not right at the source, so temperature can play a role in that. But that was the degrees Celsius. If you push it again, it'll be Fahrenheit. So they'll just record all those numbers down. on their chart, and we'll kind of discuss those as the lab goes on. Our next one that we are going to do is our pH test. So all of these compartments are color coded. So our pH test is the green. You'll come in, you get little capsules. So if we take our lid off, there's a little capsule compartment in here. So you just take one of those capsules out. And if we do them, they're kind of gentle sometimes, but if you just take it and twist it a little bit, hopefully we can get it to come off. Maybe. Sometimes you have to break them, but most times they just slide right off. Let's try it from the bottom here. Oh, there we go. And it doesn't matter if you lose them. Some of it, it's be all right. So we're just going to put the contents inside the compartment, the smaller compartment, and you'll see that there are a couple of dotted lines here. So if whatever sample you have, you don't want it to come up over the top of this bottom dotted line, and then we're going to fill it up with our sample water up to the top line. So we have our little dropper here, and I'm just going to take some, and we're just going to fill up that compartment up to that dotted line. All right, we're going to put our cap back on, and we're going to give that a couple of agitations there. And we're just going to set that off to the side. You're not going to be able to read it for about a minute or so. So as this one's sitting, we'll kind of move on to the next one, and we'll come back and see. We wanted that to settle it a little bit to see what the cloudiness is of that. All right, so then our next one is going to be our nitrogen test. So it works very similar to that. Made a pretty good mess with the first one. See if we can do this one a little better today. All right. So again, we take our a little better, not too bad. All right. Set that off to the side, and then again, we're going to fill up our compartment with our sample. Put our lid back on, and we're going to give that one a little jostle as well. And then our potassium. Oh, we already did potassium. I think I went backwards. Well, no, I didn't. Let's see. Yep, potassium. So potassium is our orange container. And we're going to do the same thing. Hopefully we're getting a little better as we go here. There we go. Oh! Okay. Yeah, we'll fill that one. All right. You can see it's kind of messy lab, so sometimes the kids like that because they like messy labs sometimes. And then our final one then is our phosphorus. And let's see if we can do that one a little bit. There we go. And I think I got it figured out this time. There we go. All right. So once we have all four of those done, again, now it's about the time we can go back to this first one and we can kind of start comparing on how those work. So you can kind of see, hopefully we get a little bit of a settlement down in here. So what we're concerned about is the cloudiness of the liquid in there. So you kind of have to hold it up to a light And it's going to be kind of hard to see in the video, but then you just kind of compare. It's not necessarily the colors we're looking at, it's the cloudiness. So we just kind of compare which cloudiness. And for this one, I'd say we're a little bit acidic on this one. I'd say it's a little bit about the 6.5 or so on that one. So I would call this a little bit acidic on that one. Nitrogen, you know, same thing. We would just kind of to look at that and kind of gauge. I'd say that's about an adequate amount of nitrogen. As we kind of move forward, same thing here with potassium. I say we're pretty adequate, maybe a little bit sufficient, maybe a little bit up to the third one there, kind of in between those two. And then our potassium or our phosphorus, I'd say we are almost at a surplus of phosphorus. So we just kind of, it's more of a qualitative than a quantitative piece on that. So the kids will have a lab packet and they would just write down their findings. I usually then will have them do a little research on the on what their levels mean, so they can just Google, you know, high pH or high nitrogen, whatever that is, to kind of give them the idea of what we're doing. So on how we do that. So our the other part is once they do that research, you know, to find out what the results mean, we always have them also look for ideas. So based on their findings, what ideas would they have to help improve that quality of water? So if they find something that was really high, what could be some possibilities of fixing that? If they find something really low, what would be some possibilities to fix that as well? So research is kind of a big part of this, so kids can learn how to do that as well. And then there is a video down here, so after they have maybe shared their research findings with you, you can show this video to them again, and it'll go through some of the practices that farmers, some local landscape people can do to help with whatever issues they were having with their water supply. And then depending on if you have some high-flying kids that need some enrichment activities, they can make a plan to outline what they would do to help fix and maintain the optimal water quality for their source. Again, creating a Google slide for that. Maybe even get them hooked up with someone in the community that can help them with how to preserve that water quality on that. And then their reflection and conclusion, you know, how can you play a role in preserving water quality? So you talk to the students about what could they do to help with that. What did you learn about agricultural water quality management practices? And what surprised you most about your lab findings? Or some good questions to ask your kids. And then we always like to do some careers, so agricultural inspector, specialist, water quality specialist, crop production specialist, and even, you know, avid gardeners. You can add those to the list because they really want to know what's in their water so that they can make sure that they're not putting anything harmful to their plants. So that concludes the Water Quality Lab. If you'd like to see more labs, you can visit kansascornstem.com.